right, folks, how do you deal with verbal and nonverbal communication in the workplace? Well, author Valorie Burton, she lays this thing out in her new book, How Successful Women Think Differently, and here's our conversation, one you want to pay attention to. You may have seen her on Dr. Oz or the Today Show sharing advice from any one of her 10 books, such as Happy Women Live Better and Get Unstuck, Be Unstoppable. Her newest book, Successful Women Speak Differently, 9 Habits That Build Confidence, Courage, and Influence. Joining me now via Skype from Atlanta, best-selling author, speaker, and life coach, my homegirl from our days in Dallas, Valorie Burton. What up?
Hey, Roland.
All right, so how do successful women speak differently?
Well, I really started out writing the book because I think a lot of women basically underestimate themselves, and research proves it out, that oftentimes we don't think we are as good as we actually are. We underestimate our skill set, and that means that we end up communicating in a way that really does not help us move closer to our goals. And so when it comes to success, we often are thinking about how important talent is, how important effort is, and those things are important. But as you probably know, communication is huge. A lot of times you'll find people who may not even have the same level of talent, but because they're good communicators, they are able to go to the next level. And so that's the reason I wrote the book.
But you have some women who will say that some styles may be too, let's say, too aggressive, too assertive, and then others say, well, I want a different type of leader. And so how do you navigate that in terms of the advice to women?
Well, I think it's really important to be authentic, but you also need to be aware of your environment and aware of your goals. So there's no one form of communication that works for everyone. And so if you find yourself continually getting feedback that is not moving you towards your goals, so you're getting feedback that you are quote unquote too aggressive. Sometimes these are cultural issues, which can be really difficult to navigate, but it's possible to navigate them when you develop personal relationships with the people who are in positions of decision making. And oftentimes we might not recognize how we're coming across to others.
And one of the things that I think people, we talk about speaking differently, the reality is here, there's some people who simply sound confident, even if when it's time to actually do something, they are horrible. And so how you project yourself is critically important.
That's right. That will open the doors. Now, you have to keep those doors open. You have to be able to deliver on the talent and your promises. But, you know, we always say don't judge a book by its cover, but the truth is we do judge books by their cover because we're trying to make decisions. And so how you present yourself is so very important to just allowing people to give you a shot. But also when it comes to speaking differently, it's not just about knowing what to say. Oftentimes it's about knowing what not to say. And in our current environment where everyone has their own platform, everyone has social media, I think it's more important than ever to be clear about what not to say. You know, not everything needs a response. Not everyone deserves to know all that's going on in your life. And so being very discerning about what you say and what you choose not to say is critical.
You also make it clear that presence matters in terms of how we speak without actually speaking.
That's right. So appearance is a language of its own. And so being very, very intentional about that. And even in body language. So, for example, when we're lacking in confidence, especially for women, we tend to present ourselves in a way that feels smaller. So, you know, crossing your arms or putting your head down, all of those things are biologically related to feeling less confident. And so one really simple tool that I like to use actually comes out of some research at Harvard is around posing. So it's like power posing. Actually, before you have a difficult conversation, an interview, something that's bringing up a lot of fear for you, actually expanding your body, actually putting your arms out or making sure that you're in a wide stance, doing that for like 2 minutes. And I'm not necessarily talking about doing it in front of other people, but alone actually increases some of the body chemistry that causes you to feel more confident. So we have to be really aware of how we present ourselves because your body position actually impacts how you feel, which impacts how you communicate.
And one of the things that I get a lot, women ask me this a whole lot whenever I have my speeches and when I'm doing presentations around the country, this idea of how do you ask for what you want. And women will say, they'll say, okay, Roland, let's talk about negotiation. Let's talk about salary. Let's talk about different things when it comes to the job. And that's probably the most consistent thing I've heard from women, that having difficulty with that.
Yeah, so some of it is how we are raised as women, to be nice, to not rock the boat. Not every woman, but far more so than boys are raised. So boys are often raised, okay, get back up. They kind of are teased in a different way than girls do. And so when we become women, a lot of times we don't want to rock the boat. And so it's really, really important to realize when it comes, for example, to salaries, women are far less likely to negotiate. And what that means over time can be as much as $1 million in income. If in your very first job you don't negotiate for a higher salary, then over time, as you are incrementally increasing your salary, that gap grows and grows. And so a lot of times it's a matter of practicing, of realizing that you are going to feel fear when you're asking for what you want if it makes you nervous, and not allowing that fear to stop you, to actually still open your mouth and ask for more and be uncomfortable doing that. You will be really surprised at the response that you get. I know I personally dealt with this, and I think it's so important for us as women to realize that oftentimes we just don't ask for more. The research actually shows that men have something called honest overconfidence. So oftentimes men would think they're worth more than they are, which means they ask, and they might not get all of what they ask for, but if they get half of what they ask for, they're way ahead of a woman who hasn't asked for anything more.
Last one. What do you mean by flip the script? What does that even mean?
Flip the script. So when it comes to conversations that are really throwing you off, especially if you think about people who are narcissistic, or they are just, maybe they're a bit toxic, perhaps they're always trying to push your buttons. When you flip the script, what you're really doing is you're responding in a way that they would not expect. And so it's really important for us to not allow people to push our buttons, to be able to deactivate some of those buttons. Researchers call it complementarity, the fact that if you're rude to me and I'm rude back, basically I'm complimenting what you've done, but we can cut that off by not responding in the same way that the other person does, and they begin to reflect our behavior. So a lot of times we don't realize the power that we have to flip the script and change the direction of the conversation.
All right, folks, the book is Successful Women Speak Differently: 9 Habits That Build Confidence, Courage, and Influence. It is by Valorie Burton. Valorie, thanks a bunch.
Thanks, Roland.
A peaceful protest turned deadly. 37-year-old black man was shot and killed by Baton Rouge police. His hands are in the air, and you still get shot by the cops.
Oh my God, please don't tell me he's dead.
We're not going to let hate define us.
Race is a big part of this.
If truly all lives matter, then all lives need to matter equally.
What we require is action. What we require is accountability. We understand that black lives do matter, and we will keep focused on this issue.
NewsOne Now, every weekday morning at 7 on TV1.